Man, Jesus was a master at understanding how human beings not only best learn, but what duplicates and what forms a movement that begins to transform culture. In our society, we have so much information on every subject. You can just go up to the search bar at the top of YouTube and type in how to do anything, and there are just hundreds of videos on any subject. We have no shortage of information. But how do we begin to train others to live it out in such a way that it actually impacts the culture around us? Well, we're going to talk about that in this video. You don't want to miss out. Coming up. Guys, my name's Mark, and I make powerful, practical, strategic content so you can make disciples who make disciples, plant churches that plant churches, right there in your context. If this content's helpful, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel. All that helps to get the content in your inbox so that you don't miss out on any content and you can do the stuff that Jesus did right there in your city. Okay, so we live in a culture that is saturated with information. In fact, we prize new ideas. And if you don't know it, that actually comes from the Greco-Roman foundation on which our culture is built. So much of our ideas and the way that we structure society is Greek, is Roman, and that culture really prized the mind and prized new information. Our universities are set up so that we sit in a lecture hall, that we're all facing one person talking, and we get new information, and then multiple years later we then go and try to apply that information. The problem is that's actually disconnected from the way that human beings best learn. A very Western idea that's focused on knowledge and information that disconnects us from application and actual training in which we live it out and work this out in our lives. Jesus understood how we best learn. Jesus models with his own disciples in Mark chapter 1. He calls his disciples and he says, "Follow me and I will make you become fishers of men." Steve Smith, a practitioner of disciple-making movements and church planting movements around the world, uses this illustration of a coin. It's like two sides of a coin where Jesus calls people to follow him, and then on the other side of that coin, that he will make you become fishers of men. So fishing and following are these two sides of the coin, and they're very connected. In fact, Jesus actually finds those that he's going to pour into by those who respond to that first call to follow. And in being called to follow and then them responding to it, they are then qualified for part 2, in which they are learning how to become fishers of men. Jesus didn't just say, "I'll show you where the best fishing spots are. I'll show you some strategies. You'll sit on my seminar and I'll give you the best tips." He says, "I will make you become fishers of men." It's a transforming training process. And that process begins with the other side of the coin, which is following Jesus. See, Jesus understood that his disciples needed information. We see in passages like the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5 through 7, that Jesus does preach in such a way that he delivers information to crowds, to large gatherings of people, but he uses that strategically. This builds momentum for the movement that's happening with the few. Jesus majored on training over teaching. He focused on putting into practice of the things that he was teaching because he understood that we are holistic human beings. And when you disconnect this thinking part of us, our minds or our brains, from our heart, from our body, it causes us to live hypocritical lives. In fact, he was pointing to those already in the Jewish culture, the Pharisees, the scribes, those who had the most information, had the most revelation, who were not actually practicing the things that they were teaching. And the problem was they had a lot of knowledge, they had a lot of understanding, but it wasn't leading to transformed lives and transformed culture because it was disconnected. Information that lived in their mind was disconnected from the heart and from the practical lifestyle. So it's important as we follow Jesus that we make disciples who know how to do the same, that they know how to look for other disciples who are ready to take steps into this journey, and that they begin to teach them how to put into practice the things that they're learning, because this creates holistic disciples who make holistic disciples and actually transforms culture, because culture is built on this reality that people are living something out. And if we want to see our cities changed, our nations changed, we've got to have a people who are living out the things that they believe. That's what actually changes how people live in cities and nations. So I would encourage you, if you want to see your city changed, it begins with us taking a hold of that reality that we've got to become those who live out the things that we believe. And we've got to major on training over teaching, because training will cause people to become holistic learners and begin to live out the things they believe and actually change the culture around them. Guys, I sure hope this has been helpful content, and if it has, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel and leave us a question, leave us a comment. We'd love to connect with you and talk with you more.